Sarah Vance, a quiet data clerk in a ruthless corporate world, faces unexpected humiliation during a routine office review. But just as she's pushed to her breaking point, a powerful figure walks in, and everything changes. Who really is Sarah, and what secret is about to shake the entire company? If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Sarah Vance, with her modest floral dresses and perpetually kind eyes, was an anomaly in the gleaming, cutthroat world of sterling innovations. She was a data entry clerk, a cog in the vast corporate machine, yet she carried herself with a quiet dignity that often went unnoticed, or worse, was mistaken for weakness. Her colleagues, a collection of ambitious, sharp-suited individuals, saw her as nothing more than Sarah, the unassuming woman who always brought homemade cookies to the office potlucks and never complained, even when saddled with extra work. Today, however, Sarah's quiet dignity was about to be tested. The quarterly performance review was underway, and the air in the open-plan office was thick with tension. Ms. Jenkins, the head of their department, a woman whose ego was as oversized as her designer watch, stood before the team, a smug expression plastered across her face. She had a particular disdain for Sarah, viewing her steady, meticulous work as slow and lacking corporate flair.
And finally,
Jenkins announced, her voice dripping with condescension,
we come to Sarah Vance. Sarah, your numbers are consistent. Consistently average, that is.
A few snickers rippled through the cubicles. Sarah felt a familiar blush creep up her neck, but she kept her gaze steady.
While others are striving for innovation, for groundbreaking solutions, you, Sarah, are content to simply exist. This company doesn't need people who just exist. We need go-getters, visionaries. Perhaps you'd be happier in a role that doesn't require quite so much intellectual heavy lifting.
She paused for effect, then, with a sneer, picked up a can of soda from her desk.
In fact, Sarah, I think you need a little refreshment to wake you up.
Before Sarah could react, Jenkins deliberately tilted the can and poured the entire sticky, fizzy contents directly onto Sarah's head. The cold liquid ran down Sarah's face, soaking her hair and dress, leaving her stunned and dripping as the office erupted in shocked gasps, followed by a few muffled giggles.
And to top it off, Sarah, we've decided to restructure your position. Effective immediately, your services will no longer be required. We'll have HR escort you out.
A collective gasp went through the office, quickly followed by an awkward silence. Sarah felt her heart plummet. She had poured years into this company, quietly supporting her family, always doing her best. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give Jenkins the satisfaction. She stood up, gathering her small handbag, her hands trembling slightly, her dress clinging uncomfortably. Just as she took a step towards the door, a sudden commotion erupted at the main entrance. The heavy glass doors swung open, and a figure strode in, radiating an aura of power that made every head snap up. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a custom-tailored suit, with a commanding presence that filled the vast office space. His eyes, a piercing shade of blue, swept over the stunned employees, finally landing on Sarah, who stood frozen, tears still threatening to spill, and now visibly soaked. It was Alexander Sterling, the Alexander Sterling, founder and CEO of Sterling Innovations, the reclusive, legendary billionaire whose face rarely graced the media, yet whose name was synonymous with global success. A hush fell over the office so profound you could hear a pin drop. Jenkins, who had been preening moments before, suddenly looked like a deflated balloon. Her face went from smug to pale, then to an alarming shade of green. Alexander's gaze hardened as he saw Sarah's tear-filled eyes, her soaked appearance, and the crumpled expression on Jenkins's face. He walked directly to Sarah, ignoring everyone else. "Sarah, my love, what's going on here? And why are you drenched?" he asked, his voice a low rumble that somehow carried across the silent room. He gently took her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles, his eyes full of concern. Sarah, still reeling from the humiliation and now the shock of her husband's unexpected arrival, could only whisper,
"Alex, what are you doing here?"
Alexander turned his piercing gaze to Ms. Jenkins, who was now visibly sweating. Ms. Jenkins, I believe you were just in the process of restructuring my wife's position and perhaps providing her with a rather unconventional refreshment? His voice was calm, but the underlying steel was unmistakable. Jenkins stammered,
Mr. Sterling, sir, I was just... Sarah's performance, it's been subpar, sir. We need to maintain high standards, you see. And the soda was an accident.
Alexander raised an eyebrow, a chillingly calm gesture. An accident? Sarah Vance is the most diligent, honest, and dedicated person I know. She has been quietly running the household, raising our children, and managing our entire philanthropic foundation while working here to keep busy. And you, Ms. Jenkins, have the audacity to humiliate her and physically assault her in front of her colleagues. The revelation hit the office like a tidal wave. Sarah Vance, the simple data entry clerk, was Sarah Sterling, wife of Alexander Sterling, the billionaire CEO. Jaws dropped, eyes widened, and a wave of mortification washed over Jenkins and the snickering colleagues. Alexander turned his attention to the entire department. His voice, though still calm, resonated with authority. Let me make this very clear. Anyone who participated in, condoned, or even silently witnessed the mistreatment of my wife, Sarah Sterling, without intervention, is no longer welcome at Sterling Innovations. He looked directly at Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins, you are fired, effective immediately, and I assure you, your career in this industry is over. Then, his gaze swept across the stunned faces of the other employees. As for the rest of you, he continued, his voice now colder than ice, the entire data entry department, and anyone else who found humor in this situation, consider yourselves terminated. HR will be in touch with your final paychecks and severance packages. I expect you all to be out of this building within the hour. Chaos erupted. People started whispering, scrambling, their faces a mixture of shock, regret, and fear. The snickering colleagues now looked utterly devastated. Alexander then turned back to Sarah, his expression softening immediately. He took her arm gently. Are you all right, my love? I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner. Sarah, still processing the whirlwind of events, managed a small, tearful smile.
I'm fine, Alex, but you didn't have to.
Yes, I did. He interrupted softly. No one humiliates my wife. Ever. He led her out of the stunned office, leaving behind a scene of utter pandemonium. As they walked away, Sarah glanced back, seeing Ms. Jenkins being escorted out by security, her face a mask of utter defeat. Outside, in the bustling city, Sarah leaned into her husband's embrace. The weight of the humiliation had lifted, replaced by a profound sense of vindication and love. She was a simple woman, yes, but she was loved fiercely by a man who would move mountains for her, and sometimes moving mountains meant firing an entire department.